Microsoft just released their earnings, and the gaming division has a little bit of work to do. What's up, everybody? Brad here, back again. And Microsoft today dropped their earnings. And it was actually a really good quarter for them. They released, or they announced, I should say, $33.7 billion in revenue. And on the podcast tomorrow, we'll talk about the company as a whole and do all that good stuff. But I know that people like diving into the specifics of the gaming division. And so that is what we're going to do today. And for the gaming division, for Mr. Phil Spencer, he's got some work to do. This is on a year over year. And if you're not sure what that means, Mike, basically it means that comparing this quarter of 2019 to the same quarter of 2018. So Microsoft is saying that their gaming revenue declined 10% or down 8% in constant currency, but don't get tied up in that. Xbox hardware revenue declined 48%, primarily due to decreased volume of console sales. Xbox software and services revenue declined 3%, and they're basically blaming Fortnite. But on the positive side of things, Microsoft is saying that Xbox Live monthly active users grew 14%. 14% is substantial here, to 65 million Xbox Live users. Now let's just kind of look at some of these figures here for a second, starting with the consoles itself. Now, we are in the tail end of a console generation. This is no surprise. Microsoft is talking about Scarlett. Microsoft is talking about xCloud. They're already talking about this stuff at their E3 conference. Seeing that sales are declining year over year at this point in the cycle, not a surprise at all. It really, that someone's going to write that as a headline. Hey, don't, because it's this time of that generation where why would you spend a whole bunch of money on a new console? Anyways, aside from that, there is something to dive into here. Remember, on May 7th, Microsoft announced the all-digital edition of the console, and everybody on the planet screamed, hey, it's too expensive. Now, I did a video yesterday talking about how on Amazon Prime Day, it appears they actually sold a bunch of these things, and that's a good sign, obviously. But that date when that occurred will not show up in the past quarter, right? July is a different quarter. The June 30th is when the quarter ends. So this is everything May 7th to June 30th, all digital edition, not selling so well, which is probably why they came out with a nice bundle, candidly, on Prime Day. So yeah, initial figures for the all digital console, they didn't help sales at all, and it was probably a flop right out of the gate. Microsoft still has time to recover, and they've already shown that they are taking the right steps. Now, software and services down 3%. That's not a big deal. I mean, that's relatively flat for the segment. Microsoft actually had $2 billion in sales, in gaming sales for the quarter. So yeah, console stuff is down, but overall for Microsoft, they still made $2 billion in revenue. Granted, we don't know the net income because Microsoft doesn't break that out, but $2 billion in revenue for the quarter is not shabby. I mean, it's actually bigger than Surface. Surface, keep in mind, was $1.3 billion. So hey, it's bigger than their Surface hardware business. So down 3%, they actually go out and say, hey, primarily from a third-party title, particularly offset by subscription growth. So they're saying subscription growth went up, third-party revenue from a particular title. They're not naming the title, but we all know it's Fortnite. Fortnite revenue came down, subscription revenue is coming up at 14% with 65 million users. So are like the alarms flashing in Phil Spencer's office and Amy Hood's walking in there? Just no, it's not doom and gloom for the Xbox division. This is pretty typical of this point in the life cycle. We'll be curious to see what happens here the next couple quarters, but leading up until probably that next generation launch of Scarlett, Xbox hardware revenue is going to be down. Now, is one thing to keep in mind here. Microsoft doesn't make a lot of money on hardware. They make more money on software and services. Without knowing all the details, it's very much possible that Microsoft actually made more in net income because they weren't selling as many consoles. If you're not selling as many consoles, it means you're not building as many. If you're not building as many, you don't have that CapEx expense going into that build up. Anyways, that is a little bit of speculation. We don't actually know that yet. So there you go. There's kind of like your deep dive. Gaming is down, but it's not out, and I'm not really too worried about it yet. Now, the point to get worried is when that revenue like starts cutting in half to around $1 billion. I don't expect to see that to keep happening. Microsoft is investing in a lot of studios and games, and those games have yet to materialize. They don't come out for a while. You got to remember, a gaming cycle is like 2 years, 3 years minimum. And so, yes, Microsoft has bought a lot of these studios, but they're not shipping that content yet. They can't. It's got to take time to materialize and get shipped. So there you go, folks. That is what happened in the Xbox side of the earnings statement this week, or this last quarter, I should say. Keep it subscribed to the channel for a whole bunch more, and we'll catch you right back here next time.